All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, officially welcome to the Athletic Health Podcast. This podcast has been in the makings for, it's been in the makings for many years. I'm extremely excited to be able to launch it. I I feel like I have been inadvertently preparing for this for my entire life. Ever since I was in the sixth grade, I started. I'll actually tell you the story because this is actually a great way to kick off the podcast. When I was in sixth grade, I remember I went to a basketball camp at the high school that I would attend a few years later, and one of the days there was a lecture that they were going to hold, and the lecture was one of the high school coaches from nearby area. It's actually New York City, so not that nearby, but I grew up on the Jersey Shore. But he was going to come down and he was going to give a speech, a lecture to the campers, and the title or the subject of the speech was how to make the NBA. And as a sixth grade kid who was absolutely obsessed with the NBA, I mean, this was probably early 2000s, so like Shaq and Kobe at their prime. MJ's probably on the Wizards by then, but I'm just all in on the NBA. So the fact that somebody was going to stand up there and give me the actual blueprint of how to make it to the NBA was 100% locked in and ready to go. So I remember he was pacing back and forth. I was sitting like on the gym floor. He's pacing back and forth, and he says, "Gentlemen, how many in here want to play in the NBA?" And all of us, suburban white kids, we all raised our hand. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to tell you today how you're going to make the NBA." And he said, "When your friends call you up later today or later this summer to go to the beach, you have to say no. And then you have to hang up the phone. You've got to go outside and you've got to go do your drills. You've got to work out. You've got to work harder than everybody else, right?" He said, "Later in the winter, when your friends call you to go to the movies, what do? You hang up the phone, you say no, and you go out and you do your drills. You've got to work longer and harder." He gave us the Bill Bradley speech. Whenever you're not working out, your competition is out there somewhere getting better. And that really resonated with me. I mean, I was completely locked in there. I'm not joking. I mean, in retrospect, it turns out I was the only one who was this decisive in this moment. But I decided from then on that if I was going to play in the NBA, which is what I wanted to do, that was my goal, that was my dream. This guy was standing up there and telling me exactly how to do it. I was 100% and I was absolutely going to do it. So since sixth grade, I have been outside working out for hours every single day in an attempt to make the NBA. Now, I didn't make the NBA, or at least not as a player. I did eventually make it as a strength and conditioning coach, but I didn't make it as a player. But I ended up I was a Division I college basketball player, and I think I did all right there. But that's really where all of this started, because I was trying to find a way to, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it in these terms, but I was trying to find a way to optimize my body's performance. After college, when I became a strength and conditioning coach, I started to dive into the actual science of performance and how can we create that. It started by how do we create that in a weight room, and then as I worked my way up from the college ranks to the minor leagues of professional baseball, where I was a strength and conditioning coach for the Diamondbacks and the Yankees, and then I became a strength and conditioning coach for the Lakers. I went all the way up to the highest level of sport. Truly, my model of how to optimize somebody's performance evolved. It took on a very neuroscience approach. And while I don't have a degree in neuroscience, I feel that I'm very well versed in the neuroscience of sport, the neuroscience of performance, because it became such a big deal for how to train an NBA player. And that's not stuff that we have to get into today. I'm just trying to give you a preface of where this thing is going to go in the future. So this podcast, Athletic Health, has been in the making ever since I was in the sixth grade, working out hours a day, trying to find a way to optimize my own performance, right? So here's the question. What is athletic health? Athletic health to me is health. We're generating health by way of training like an athlete. And here's why: whether you think of yourself as an athlete, whether you used to think of yourself as an athlete, whether that is a completely foreign term to your self-identity, here's why I think it is incredibly important for you to at least give this thing a shot. I believe that athletes are the healthiest people on our planet. The reason being is because they don't shoot for normative values. When an athlete gets tested, if he doesn't fall into the top 1% of every single category, we're talking major red flags here. If I went down the line and measured out, all of the NBA guys that I worked with when I was coaching the Lakers, I would guarantee you that almost across the board, they're top 1% in anything, right? And if you are somebody who is injured, you've got something that's hurt, you're sick, another way to phrase that is something has gone wrong in the body. A system has broken down. And the restorative journey is trying to find a way to get that system to start working again, to start performing well again. And if that is the goal, if that is the question, we must answer the following question: who is the gold standard for having a body, for having systems that are working perfectly? It's professional athletes, right? The beautiful thing about professional athletes is not only is their cardiovascular system working properly, but so is their strength system, their neurological system, their stress management system, their central nervous system, their metabolic system. All the way across the board, all of their systems are working perfectly. So if you are someone who is striving for optimal health, if you are someone who is striving for longevity, if you are somebody who's injured or sick and trying to find a way to restore the body, or if you've been there for a while, and I see clients like this literally every single day who have been to all of the experts, who have tried everything they can possibly imagine, and I'm going to tell you why here in a second, why that often falls flat. If you are somebody who's trying to restore the body, aren't you trying to restore your systems to optimal function? And who has the optimal function? It is the athletes. In my book, Athletes Heal Faster, I write something, I talk about the education system here in America and across the world, and the pros and cons of it, right? If we look at the medical industry today, you have neurologists, cardiologists, you've got nephrologists, you've got ophthalmologists, you've got podiatrists, you've got orthodontics, right? Like if we go down the line, we see all of these. I wish I could Google it right now. I'm not gonna mess up my flow, but I wonder how many different branches of medicine exist. It wouldn't surprise me if the list is like exceptionally long. And from an education standpoint, we understand the importance of this because the body's complicated. There's a lot to learn. Just think about that. The podiatrist is just studying the foot. The ophthalmologist is just studying the eye. And like the eye is just this tiny part of our body, but it's so complex. It's so complicated. And in order to really do a good job for somebody to master the eye, hang on, I'm having some technical difficulties here. Of course, I want to stay on the call. In order for somebody to master the eye, they have to devote their entire career to that. And now we've got really in-depth understanding of how the eye works and the foot works and the heart works, right? We've learned in isolation, but we've missed the most important component of the restorative process, which is bringing it all back together again. I have so many people that come into my office and they've been to truly all of the experts. They've been to neurologists. They've been to spiritual healers. They've been to psychic healers. They've done everything they can possibly find to fix whatever thing is bothering them. And they come into my office and sometimes within one visit, they are completely healed. And I don't claim to be some sort of magician. What I do better than anybody else is I bring the systems together again because that's how it works in athletics. In order to perform at the highest level of sport, all of your systems need to be working in isolation excellently, but then collaboratively excellently to bring the whole system together. And that to me is what athletic health is. And that to me is why athletic health is so important for everyone to start understanding and to start striving for. If I look at some of the popular figures in healthcare and biohacking today, we look at Dave Asprey, Andrew Huberman. All of Andrew Huberman's protocols are attempting to optimize the systems. Peter Attia's, if you read his wonderful book on longevity, Drive, or this is podcast, Outlive. If you read his wonderful book on longevity, Outlive, all he's trying to do is optimize the systems, right? And that's what this whole game is about. And nobody's doing that better than athletes. Nobody's doing that better than professional athletes. I have seen it. I have seen it at the highest level of sport. I've had access to the deep pockets of the franchises, some of the wealthiest franchises in the world, to be able to go out and find the things that work, to see what the professional, the best in the world are doing right now. I have friends right now who are working in these organizations, and I have some unique access to finding this information and knowing what's working right now. That's another thing about professional sports is theory is not good enough. We need to win. We need to win now. If a player's hurt, he needs to be better now. We need to know what's working, what's delivering real results. And that's the reason, I started my strength and conditioning career in 2012. In 2016, I was in the NBA. The reason I was able to expedite the process so quickly was because I was delivering real results. And the Lakers, the Diamondbacks, the Yankees, they need real results. And that is really the foundation of my entire career, is how to deliver real results to real people. It was like an infomercial. I think that was John Bastow, real results to real people. You guys, this is a real throw. It's like early 2000s, 90s, ESPN. I think it was like an ESPN infomercial, but whatever. So that is what athletic health is. We are striving to create health at the highest possible level, the same way that athletes do it. I want to take you on this journey. I want to be your tour guide. I want to be your coach as we go through this. I personally am trying to find these strategies to use for myself. I am a world champion athlete in training. I'm not currently a world champion, but I'm training to become one. So I've got to be locked in. I've got to be doing everything that I can to optimize and produce that athletic level health. I'm going to, as part of this podcast, we've already got some really good ones lined up. I'm going to be bringing you some of the best experts from around the world in the 4 categories of athletic health. And those 4 categories are posture and breathing, strength and conditioning, metabolic efficiency, and central nervous system regulation. We're going to be bringing you the best possible experts that we can find in every category, to not only selfishly help myself, but to be able to bring you the strategies as well. Now, quick side note, if you want to help me with that journey, and I would really appreciate you helping me with that journey. This is episode number 1. And what I really appreciate is for you to rate this podcast. If you hate it, rate it a 1 star. If you love it, rate it a 5 star. Give us an honest rating, and then subscribe to the podcast as well. Maybe leave us a review if you're feeling extra generous. And the more people that do that, I know that it's a little annoying and you don't really want to pull out your phone and you don't want to really do that. I understand that. But the more people that do that, the more sweet guests that are going to take notice of this and that they're going to be accepting of coming on my show. So if you want to hear from the big dogs, if you want to hear me, grill Andrew Huberman, grill Peter Attia, grill Lewis Howes, grill Tony Robbins, and really get some real answers, just take 2 seconds out of your day. I would greatly appreciate it. And maybe you'll get some free goodwill, right? What is it? It's the law of attraction. The more you give, the more you receive. So if you just give me a little bit here, I'll try to help you receive as much benefit as we possibly can from this podcast. Okay. So the next thing I want to tell you is the epiphany that I had years ago about the secrets that are held behind the the closed doors of professional sports training facilities. The things that go on behind in the weight rooms and the training rooms and the medical offices of professional sports organizations are not the same as the treatment and the processes that you're going through for a variety of reasons at your local physician, at your local physical therapist, at your local strength and conditioning coach's office. I've already mentioned this earlier, but you have to understand that the only thing that matters in professional sports is delivering results. And in the real world, outside of professional sports, other things matter. Insurance matters. Is the insurance company going to pay for my diagnosis? Are they going to accept my diagnosis? Are they going to accept the exercises that I give you? And a lot of times, the new and progressive and innovative strategies do not qualify for reimbursement for physical therapy. And there's a lot of red tape that people have to go through, that professionals and the experts have to go through in order to treat you in the real world, that we can completely bypass in the world of professional sports, because the only thing that matters is what is delivering results. We don't have to worry about client retention. We don't have to worry about, we don't have to worry about getting paid. We don't have to worry about client acquisition and marketing. All we have to worry about is getting the person in front of us, the elite professional athlete in front of us, better and performing better so that we can win more games. And that alone is a cauldron. It is a cauldron of circumstance that is going to produce way more results than it is going to produce, just given all of the red tape and the crap that a professional outside of pro sports is going to have to go through. Okay? So there are things that are happening differently in the weight rooms and in the training rooms of professional sports that you have never seen, that you have never had access to. And what I want to do with this podcast is pulling that curtain back and showing it to you. Okay. And I want to tell you about the first time that I saw this for myself. So I am a long-time sufferer of migraine headaches. I think the first time I ever got one was in second grade, and I don't know why, but I remember I was reading a Ranger Rick magazine. Maybe there's some people out there who are also Ranger Rick subscribers. I can't imagine it still exists. But the Ranger Rick magazine, there was a blue-footed booby on the front. I think it's a bird, right? And I feel like it was the February edition. I was in my family room at home. I was reading this magazine, and all of a sudden I got this freaking brutal pain behind my eye. It was like the muscles behind my eyes were just like seizing up on me. I've always described it as, it felt like somebody was stabbing me with a sword behind both of my eyeballs. It was brutal. And the only way that I was able to eliminate the pain was to violently throw up in the bathroom or a nearby bush. And this happened like consistently throughout my childhood. And it just became a thing that I was suffering from migraines. And, we tried to stay out of the sun. We tried to stay hydrated. There were a variety of homemade remedies that we tried to fix it, and we were never really able to do it. Years and years go by, and I can remember all sorts of embarrassing moments of throwing up in the bushes outside of the local pizza place. I remember throwing up in my buddy's front yard and my mom having to come pick me up. I remember throwing up at school. I mean, this was the only way that I was going to eliminate the pain, was to actually throw up. It was brutal. But years go by, and I eventually discover Excedrin migraine, which to this day I call God's gift to man. That thing, if I catch it early enough, Excedrin migraine will eliminate the migraine. However, if there's like a threshold, if I go too far, it's over. My day is shot. I've got to go sit in a quiet room and pray to the sweet baby Jesus that it doesn't get so bad. I can fall asleep before I throw up. Usually if I take a nap or get a nice little sleep in, the migraine will go away as well. So I'm in my first spring training with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm a brand new coach. I'm the newbie on the staff. I'm already embarrassed by how much smarter everybody is than me. And the only thing that I really feel that I can bring to the table is my energy. So I'm trying to bring as much as I possibly can. I'm trying to be as energetic as I possibly can. But out there in Arizona, I mean, we're talking probably March. It's creeping up towards the hundreds. That Arizona sun is nothing to scoff at. It's no joke. And, like I've felt for my entire life, I felt a migraine coming on. but there's nothing to worry about because in my bag and every bag that I carry to this day, I have a small bottle of Excedrin migraine. So when I catch a moment in between lifts, I run over to my bag and I pick up my bottle, I open it up, I turn it over, and it's empty. Not a single pill of Excedrin migraine in there, which is very unlike me. I'm a very prepared guy, but there's not a single tablet of Excedrin migraine in there. And now I'm panicking because I know that this is a runaway train going downhill, and I know what the future holds for me. I know that that the pain is going to continue to increase. Eventually, it's going to get so bad where I'm going to have to go home. And I'm the new guy. I'm trying to set a good impression. I'm trying to work hard. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do as a newbie on this staff. And I was embarrassed that I was going to have to go home because my head hurt. So a couple minutes of panic goes by, and I end up going into the medical room, into the training room. And I remember the AAA athletic trainer was standing right there. And I said, hey, does anybody here have Excedrin migraine or something for a migraine that I could take? And he looks up at me, the AAA athletic trainer, he looks up at me and he goes, yeah, we have Andrew. And I'm like, guy, this is not the time for jokes. Like, I got a real problem on my hands. And Andrew was the name of our medical coordinator, and he was kind of a resident, like, voodoo genius. So I kind of got what he was saying, but I didn't really want to play around with it. I needed Excedrin, and I needed it now. Andrew looks up at me. He was working with somebody at the time. He goes, give me 5 minutes, and I'll come in, and I'll see what I can do. So you've got to understand where I'm at. I'm desperate. I'm really trying to make a good impression. This is my first real job out of college. I'm young. I'm like 23, 24 years old. And I'm really I really don't want to go home. So a couple minutes goes by and Andrew walks into the weight room, and there was a massage table in the weight room, and he says, all right, lay down on the table. I lay on my back, and he starts, testing me. He starts like testing my arms and my legs and my hips and my mobility and my flexibility. And look, I'm brand new. Again, I'm complete newbie. And I had no idea what he was doing to me. But again, I was desperate. I was like, I'm just going to go with it. And I don't remember everything that he did, but I do remember one thing. I remember he had me close my eyes, and he ran his finger around my face. And he said, all I want you to do is I want you to keep your eyes closed, but I want you to follow my finger with your eyes. And I don't know if he was following a specific pattern. And even to this day, I honestly don't even really know what that was. But he did a couple things, and then he goes, I got it. I found it. And I mean, and I said, you found it? What did you find? He goes, I found your headache. And I was like, okay, dude, where was my headache? And he's like, it's coming from your right glute. And listen, as crazy as it sounds to you right now, listening to this podcast is exactly as crazy as it sounded to me laying on that table. But again, I'm desperate. I've got to figure this out. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get rid of this. So I said, all right, guy, if it's coming from my right glute, like, what do I do? So he has me like roll over. He turns me into like this little pretzel, and he puts me on my side, and he has me have my right leg like levitating in the air. I'm laying on my side, my left side. He's kind of almost like a clamshell, and he puts his hand on my right knee, and he goes, at some point in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to slam your right knee down to the table. Your job is to not let me do that. You've got to be able to resist that and push me back up. I said, all right. So I'm just sitting there. I'm holding it. I'm waiting. I'm ready for it. I'm going to jam it back up as soon as he does it. And all of a sudden, bam, he slams it down on the table, and I reflexively just pop it back up. And he goes, there. Okay, got it. I said, got it? What do you mean you got it? So he goes, all right, take a second, get your breath, and then I want you to stand up and I want you to walk around. So I do that. I take a second, and then I stand up and I walk around. And it wasn't instant, but I could tell something had changed. And as I walked around the weight room, it started to melt away. Now, I don't really know how to describe my reaction other than profound. I really want to emphasize how debilitating these things were. I mean, this was like a bit of an emotional moment for me because I had tried so many things to try to get rid of this, and it was so painful, and it was something that just consistently happened in my life. And within 3 minutes, Andrew had fixed it. I mean, it was completely gone, and it rocked my world that he was able to do this. So I turned to him and I said, hey man, like, what did you just do to me? So he starts trying to explain. He's like, your pelvis and then your head. And he goes, I'm sorry, it's just too complicated. And I go, listen, you don't understand. I remember looking him dead in the eye and I go, listen, you don't understand how big of a deal this is to me. Like, this is something this has been a major issue for me my whole life. You've got please, anything you can do to simplify this, you got to tell me what it was. And he thought for a second and he tried to put it together. And then he just turned to me and goes, listen, it's just too complicated. And from then on, I was on an absolute crusade to figure out what that was. Now, this was a selfish crusade. I wanted to figure out what this was for myself. But what I learned along the way was remarkable. I mean, I saw connections to every disease. I saw connections to every physical ailment that you could possibly name. And I'm talking the big ones here too. I saw connections with all of this, as I researched what in the heck just happened to me. And this was my first real epiphany, my aha moment, that things inside of professional sports are different than you are getting with your local physician, with your local physical therapist, with your local quote unquote expert. And I didn't really understand why they were different, but I knew in that moment that they were different. And since that day, which was the spring, probably March of 2013, to over a decade later, I have learned so much about the human body and how to restore it and how to just make it work the way we all want it to work. Make it work the way it did when we were in our 20s and in our teens, when we were in college and everything was running really well. I've learned so much about how to do that. And this podcast, the Athletic Health Podcast, is about exploring those. It's about revealing those secrets to you. It's about taking you behind the closed doors of NBA weight rooms, of MLB weight rooms, of MLS weight rooms, of the best experts into the labs and into the research and into the minds of the best experts in the world. And we've already got some incredible ones lined up for you, and to be able to bring those strategies to you. Now, I mentioned this a little earlier. There are 4 components of athletic health to me. And these are the 4 things that we've got to be able to identify for anybody that we work with. We've got to be able to assess and identify where the weak points are for anybody that we're going to work with. And here are the four components of athletic health. Number 1, it is breathing and posture. Breathing is a muscular activity that you will repeat 20,000 times every single day. If you don't do that correctly, you can't do anything else correctly. And I'm going to tell you this, we're not going to go into it today, but there are some shocking, profound facts about the anatomy and the biomechanics of respiration, of breathing, that will rock your world and completely change. This is not hyperbole. This will completely change the way you train forever. You are almost every single person who is listening to me speak right now, when they hear how breathing breaks down, the biomechanics of respiration, you will be shocked at how poor your workout programs have been to this point. Even if you've consulted with experts, even if you've been listening to other experts' podcasts, I guarantee you I'm going to rock the very foundation that your fitness is built on when you learn about how this breathing stuff works, okay? And you do it 20,000 times every single day. You damn well better get this right if you want to be as optimal and as healthy as you possibly can be. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is strength and conditioning. Okay, what we find with a lot of our clients is that they have weak hamstrings and weak abs, and just by turning them on, we can provide a tremendous amount of relief. But that's not where it ends. We've got to make sure that those hamstrings and those obliques and your entire system is able to produce energy for long enough that it sustains. For most of us, we're going to go and we're going to work an 8-hour day. We're going to work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. And what I hear from a lot of my clients is that when I start the day, I'm fine. When I wake up, I'm fine. But by the time 3 p.m. rolls around, I'm in a ton of pain. That's telling me that the muscles aren't lasting long enough. They're not doing their job. You're not be able to produce efficient enough energy for long enough to be able to live an enjoyable life. So the strength and conditioning component is, can I turn the muscles on? And can I make them last long enough, right? A lot of people are going to listen to this podcast. They're going to balk when they see that this is athletic health, because they're going to say, I'm not an athlete, or I'm no longer an athlete, or they don't resonate. Their identity has nothing to do with athletics. Strength and conditioning in sports is about meeting the demands of the sport. When I worked in professional baseball, I needed to make a starting pitcher last through 100 pitches, which was going to last roughly an hour and a half, 2 hours, 7, 8, 9 innings of a baseball game. He had to meet the demands of his sport. What are the demands of your sport? If you are not a professional athlete, you still have demands of your existence. You got to work from 9 to 5. You got to be able to live. You got to be able to focus. You've got to be able to have energy for the kids and the family when you come home. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got way more demands, right? You may not be a professional athlete in the classical sense, but damn it, you are a professional athlete. You have demands, and we've got to find a way to train your body to become a performance machine. And that's what the Athletic Health Podcast is all about. We want to show you how to do that. That's what I built my business around, is how to show you how to do that, all right? So posture and breathing, strength and conditioning. Number 3 is metabolic efficiency down to the cellular level. How efficient are you? Are you producing energy for long enough? Are you able to produce it efficiently? There are 3 different types of energy production systems in the body, and are you using the right ones? And what you're going to find out, especially if you're hitting that 3 o'clock lull or that midday lull, if you're running out of energy, you're probably going to learn that you're not producing energy efficiently. It is actually possible to wake up in the morning at 9 o'clock or at 6 o'clock in the morning and have an abundance of energy all throughout the day. These are the strategies I'm going to show you how to become efficient metabolically at the cellular level. And then the 4th one is the one I'm most intrigued by. It's central nervous system regulation. This is neurology. This is neuroscience. This is the brain. How do we get you to deal with stress? How do we help you recover? How do we get you to be at your best when you need it the most? Those are the 4 components that we are going to be exploring here inside of the Athletic Health Podcast. Recap for you: posture and breathing, strength and conditioning, metabolic efficiency, and central nervous system regulation. Okay. All right. Wrapping up. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I can't wait for you to dive in and hear about all of our other experts and hear what they have to say. And I'm going to keep bringing you everything that I can. My current plan, subject to change, is Tuesday, solo podcast, where I break down one facet of athletic health. Every Thursday, we're going to be bringing you a guest who's going to dive into their own expertise. We're going to work to bring it together. I'm going to be bringing you resources outside of the podcast. We're going to have some stuff online. We're going to have some newsletters. We're going to have all sorts of stuff. We're going to have online academies. I've got big plans for this thing, but all you've got to do now is just move on to the next episode. Actually, before we go, I wanted to actually mention, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to notice that there are over 400 podcasts that came before this, and there's a variety of different topics there. And what you're going to, if you care to dive back in there, I'm not going to delete any of them. What those podcasts are, they were a reflection of my journey. At the very beginning, I had to learn. I was learning about this stuff, and I was learning about it in real time, and I was producing content and podcasts. I had no idea even what that podcast was called back in the day, but I was bringing content from a variety of experts, from myself, and just trying to learn about the body. So if you go back all the way to the beginning, that's the stuff that you're going to learn. A huge chunk of them are going to be business related. When I left the NBA and I became an entrepreneur, when I jumped into the ranks of being a business owner, I had to find a way to run a business. I had to find a way to communicate my message. I was reading tons and tons of business books and marketing books and copywriting books and self-help books and financial books, trying to figure out a way to put these pieces together. When COVID hit and it shut down my in-person training business, I had to find a way to continue to make ends meet, continue to pay the bills. So I shifted to helping coaches build their business. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I was able to shift my focus back to what I really love and what I think I've been called to do, and it is to teach you this athletic health system. So if you're going to go back and you're going to check some of that stuff out, there's all sorts of stuff in there. And I just wanted to let you know what was back there in the event that you wanted to really dig into the archives and be a part of my journey. And the reason that I don't want to delete it, and I don't really feel that it is my place to teach people business anymore. But the reason that it's in there is because it's authentic, it's organic. That is really how I came to this position. And I'm hopeful that in 20 and 30 years that we can look back on the entirety of the journey of my podcast and see just how I grew and how I built and hopefully how I became the leader in healthcare that I am becoming at this moment. And it was, you'll be able to see that sequence as we go. So this is episode 1 of Athletic Health. That's what came before. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. Again, I would be so grateful if you just take 30 seconds out of your day to just hit subscribe, drop a rating, get a little bit of some free goodwill. And it would really help this podcast, and it would also help you because then everybody, the bigger names are going to start taking notice of it. And then we'll be able to get bigger guests, spread the word, help more people. And ultimately, that's the mission. Okay. So thank you very much. And let's get to work here. Okay.